I was just straightening up my knees to try to pull myself up over this ledge, and I heard this thing that I never heard before, but I knew exactly what it was. It was a rattler. Hello, friends. Welcome back to Zapp Savvy, the podcast that electrifies your world with energy solutions.
That's right. We're back for another episode. I'm Mike Sokol.
And I'm Doug Curtis, and we're your hosts.
Okay, I think it's time for our favorite outdoor adventure stories. Okay, Doug, you're on, man. What do you like?
Well, actually, this is part one, and in the next episode, I'll tell you about part two. But part one it's the early 50s. I'm about 10 years old, and we have a lot of trees in our backyard. And my dad, he had a World War II jungle hammock, which meant that you had a regular canvas hammock, and then you had mosquito netting, and then you had we would have in a regular tent a fly, but it was all one thing, and you hung it up between two trees in the backyard, and then you made the screens work right, and you got the roof so the water, and it had a zipper, and you climbed into it, and you could sleep in a jungle hammock in the backyard. And that's my part one story. Stay tuned for part two.
Okay, so you get to pick. So should I talk about when I almost died my dad almost drove the Rambler off the little road going up to Pikes Peak, or when I got to drive into Canada on the Gaspé Peninsula and helped man walk on the moon? Which one do you want first?
I think I gotta go for danger.
Danger. Okay, danger. Okay, so here's the deal. Rambler station wagon with a bumper hitch on it, little Cox pop-up camper, and we're driving out by, Pikes Peak. And so we had camped somewhere down the campground, and we decided that my dad decided he wanted to go up the little windy road up to this thing, not realizing just how terrified my mother was of heights. So we get halfway up. This is us three kids. I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. We're in the back of the Rambler station wagon. Dad's driving up there. We get halfway up. Mom is crying and sobbing and shaking and says, "Joe, you've got to turn around." And this is a little one-lane road, and there's no guardrail on this thing. Dad keeps going till he finds a tiny, tiny little wider spot for turnaround. He's backing the Rambler up, and he's asking us kids to tell us when the wheels are going to fall off and then we're all going to plummet to earth. This is a lot of responsibility for like a 9-year-old kid, right? So obviously we survived. Dad got the thing nosed around and turned around. He said it was because he was a driver's ed instructor. He was able to do this. We got down the hill. Mom said, no more trips up big mountains anymore. So after that, we tried to camp more in flatter areas.
Okay. Good story. But Mike, I know you've been getting a lot of really great questions about lithium batteries. And it feels like we're always bringing these up, but the questions from people are really endless.
Yes, I'm constantly getting questions about these things. And so today I thought it was an amazing opportunity to bring on a guest who's the industry expert on the topic of lithium battery charging. He's from Progressive Dynamics, and Dennis Wieske is joining us today. Hey, Dennis, how are you?
I'm great, Mike. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, tell us a little bit about your background in lithium battery charging.
Okay, so I've been working with Progressive Dynamics for about 8 years now, and as I started out, I saw more and more people being interested in the lithium batteries as they were slowly getting into the industry. So I started doing a lot of research because I get questions all day long. I work in the service department here at PDI. I answer phone calls all day long, anywhere from 30 to 60 calls a day. And the trend that I've noticed over time is that 7 years ago, we'd get maybe 1 or 2 calls a week. Now we get 5 or 6 calls a day, all related to people wanting to upgrade to lithium batteries. Mike and I have gone over this before. People would buy their batteries and say, be told by the sellers that, oh, just throw it in there and it'll all work. Well, I didn't like that, and so I just dug into lithium batteries, charging, what we can do at our end here, what workarounds we might have for customers so that they can properly charge their battery.
Very good. Excellent. Excellent. So, what we're going to do here, we've gathered up about 12 questions, I believe, Q&As just from our background. We're not going to be able to answer all of these questions in this one Zapp Savvy podcast. So guess what? This is going to be a two-parter. So we're going to get through half a dozen or so of these today, and then stay tuned next month. We'll fill in the rest of them. What do you think, Doug? Are we ready to go?
Yeah, I wonder, Mike, if, we just might sort of paint the picture really quickly because, there is so many things to talk about when you talk about even battery types and then how different are the battery types. I mean, should we maybe, as we get further into this, we could populate maybe some bullets on the screen listing where we're going, or we're just going to go into the darkness and be guided by the light of Dennis and you.
Lithium-powered LEDs. So yeah, and again, lithium batteries used to be kind of just very rare kind of thing. Now that the price is dropping, many of the manufacturers are beginning to put them in as OEM or or maybe perhaps as an upgrade that you can get. But not a lot of people understand what lithium batteries are. So I thought we would go down this list, and Dennis and I can talk about the bits and pieces of this, and we'll put some screenshots up for you.
Great.
Okay, so what do you think? Is that a good plan?
Great plan.
Okay, Dennis, let's talk first a little bit about the history of flooded lead acid batteries. They've been around for a while, haven't they?
Over 100 years. So they haven't really changed very much. The materials have changed. Some of the chemical composition has changed, but they still operate the same way. You have a electrolytic solution, you have some plates, and chemical reactions take place that provide your electricity. You kind of reverse that process and charge the batteries as well so they can store the energy as well. They do contain a liquid. The liquid can boil off, evaporate, gas out. So it's very important on a flooded lead acid battery that you regularly check the water levels, keep the battery charged. You run into a whole bunch of difficulties if you keep your battery undercharged. They will sulfate, and when they sulfate, you end up destroying the plates, and then you lose the effectiveness of the battery.
So, Dennis, absorbed glass mat, AGM batteries, how are they
So
different?
this was a technology that was developed for the military, actually, back in the 70s. So rather than having a whole bunch of liquid floating around in the battery, there's a glass material that absorbs the electrolyte, and that is placed in between the plates. So you don't have a battery that you have to put water in. In fact, you can't. They are sealed. They are regulated valves, so when they do, for some reason, want to release gas, they can do that. But as far as trying to replenish distilled water, it's not going to happen. They charge a little bit differently, but most will operate well off of a standard flooded lead acid charger.
Okay, so now the star of the show here today, lithium iron phosphate batteries. Let's talk a little bit about what they are and some of the advantages of that. So take it away, Dennis. What do we know about lithium iron phosphate batteries?
Okay, so there are a lot of varieties of lithium batteries out there, and people have heard the horror stories of their cell phones and their laptop computers igniting for apparently no reason. The lithium iron phosphate battery has a little different chemistry, and so the oxygen atoms that are actually being used in the battery are bonded within the structure. So it's not free oxygen, so even if they get hot, they're not going to flame out like you would see in some of the other type of lithium batteries. They charge very fast, pretty much as you can give it. Most of the battery manufacturers will install a battery management system in the battery. Its sole purpose in life is to protect the cells of the battery. So it regulates charging, discharging, and does whatever it needs to do to maintain proper operation of the cells within the battery.
And one of the other things the BMS does is not only regulates the amount of charge going in and also limits the amount of current supplied, it also should be able to limit the charging current if the temperatures go down real low. You cannot charge a lithium iron phosphate cell once it gets down, below 32 degrees?
32 degrees. Battleborn has done a video on that, actually. What happens, though, is the cold temperature does not allow the even flow, the chemistry between changing the anode and the cathode and vice versa. And so when you do that, you end up damaging any barriers between those, and that will destroy the cell. So a quality made lithium iron phosphate battery will have built-in protection to prohibit charging if the battery is at 32 degrees below or below.
Right. And a number of the batteries that I'm working with now have built-in heaters, or you can get a blanket on it. So one of the jobs of the BMS is not to charge the cells, but turn on the heater, as it were, until it gets it up to temp. And then it can begin charging the cells, which is also a good reason why your lithium batteries would like to be in the living compartment where you can have heat as opposed to out on the tongue of your trailer. Because if it's out there and it's cold out and you don't have a heater in it, you can't charge those things all winter. You've got to bring the batteries into a room to get them up to temp to charge them. A lot of people don't realize you could just kind of get yourself between a rock and a hard place unless you've got.
That brings up another point, Mike. The flooded and absorbed glass batteries have a tendency to bleed off internally due to the chemistry in the battery. Physics are involved here, way beyond what I understand, but they will discharge. However, on a lithium battery, once you charge it up, that's it. It will hold that charge for an extended period of time. I did an experiment, fully charged the battery, let it sit on the floor, disconnected, and when I came back 8 months later, it still had 98% charge left in the battery. So you don't have to worry about keeping that battery charged while you're in storage. Disconnect the battery, it will hold its charge. So that's a huge advantage over any of the lead type batteries.
I got my next question here, and I've got people that swear by 6-volt, deep cycle batteries, flooded lead acid, and they say, how come are they better than the 12-volt ones? And I think I understand this. Dennis, do you know any difference between 6-volt deep cycle batteries and 12-volt, flooded lead acid batteries?
So basically you have 3 levels of batteries to begin with. So you have your starter battery lights. That's the one you find under the hood in your car. It really has very little storage capability. However, it does crank out a lot of amps to get that engine started. Then you have a level 2 battery, a marine RV battery, which still have high cranking amps, but they also have increased storage. So you may be getting up to 70, 100, 105 storage amps. When you start getting down into the deep cycle battery, they do not have as high of cranking amp capability. However, they do have a larger storage capability. So, and along with the lithium iron phosphate batteries, they also have tremendous storage capability, but they actually have even a more limited cranking amp capability.
Many manufacturers advertise their lithium batteries as a drop-in upgrade. Is that really true?
No, it's not. There's a number of differences with the lithium battery versus a lead acid battery. So part of it is, and the big part of it is the charging voltage required to charge a lithium battery. It is more related to a bulk charge or a rapid charge on a lead acid battery. You're looking at 14.4 is now the current industry standard. Although I have to say here, there is no industry standard. So the standard I'm going by is what the average recommendation is from all those battery sellers that are on Amazon and some of the other sites. Originally, when the lithium battery came out, the ideal charging voltage is 14.6 volts for the cells that are in the battery. I don't know what the particular reason is, but the industry seems to have lowered that recommended voltage down to 14.4. We have done that with our products, and across the line, any new product you get from us will be charging at 14.4, not the old standard of 14.6. They also charge rapidly. And so what I mean by that is with a flooded or lead acid battery, generally when you're charging 3 to 5 amps. On a really low battery, maybe 10, 15. So even though you have a 60 amp charger, you're really not throwing that 60 amps into the battery. You're putting much, much less. And all the older rigs were all wired with ideal wiring for that type of situation. However, with the lithium battery can absorb actually greater than its storage capacity. So a 100 amp hour battery theoretically could take in 200 amps and fully charge that battery in a half hour. Now, most of the battery manufacturers have limited that to, rather than 2C, 2C would be the equivalent of 2 times the charge value of the battery. So they recommend maybe half. So on a 100 amp hour battery, you would charge at about 50 amps. That battery will absorb that right away. So that brings up a new problem that didn't occur in the RVs before because of that slow charge rate, is the fact that wire has resistance. And as you increase the current through the wire, the voltage drop across that wire increases. What that means is that you may have 14.4 volts at your charger. You may end up only with 13.4 volts at your battery. You're losing that voltage. And when you have that lower charging voltage at the battery, it actually will reduce the rate of charge. So instead of charging at 60 amps, you might only charge at 20, 30 amps, not really utilizing the positive characteristics of the battery. You're cutting it in half. Now, for some people, that's fine. If you decide you don't want to mess with lead acid batteries anymore and you're always plugged in when you go camping, then so it takes extra time to charge those batteries, really doesn't matter. Boondocking, however, when you want to run that generator for a couple hours and put a couple, put an amp, 100 amps or more into that battery, well then you need efficient wiring. So we've done a lot of testing here at Progressive Dynamics and have determined that about 2% loss between the charger and the battery itself is going to be your most efficient charging. 1% is not going to gain you anything. 5% will reduce your rate of charge. So testing we've done, about 2% loss between the battery and the converter is going to give you optimal charging. Now, there's other things that can play into that. You have other devices, you have connections, you have disconnect switches, you have circuit breakers. You can lose a little bit of voltage across all those devices. So you may not get that full 60 amps, but you should get above 50, 55, and maybe even you will get that 60 amps. All depends on the loss between the battery and the converter.
Wow, there's just so much knowledge to be gained for RVers when it comes to lithium batteries. It's such a critical part of RVing. Thank you, Mike, for bringing Dennis on again. And Dennis, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and experience. We'll be right back after this break. Attention RVers, now you can start and run 2 ACs in your rig plus several appliances at the same time. Previously, to start your RV AC easily, you'd have to use a large generator or install one of our SoftStartRVs inside your rooftop AC units. Well, our newest Soft Startup gives you all the benefits of having SoftStartRV devices in each of your AC units without having to climb up on your roof, figure out the wiring and the connections, or pay a service center to install it for you. Hi, I'm Doug Curtis, and I'm the co-founder of SoftStart USA, the company that makes the Soft Startup and our entire line of proven Soft Starter devices for RV, home, and marine AC appliances. Well, we listened, and we worked our tails off for 2 years with engineers from 2 different companies, including our own in-house team, to develop the world's first plug-and-play Soft Start that we guarantee will start and run 2 ACs and several of your appliances simultaneously. No other company has this, and if they claim it, let's see the proof. I'm about to show you the proof. My friend, what this means is that you can now experience the benefits of having 2 or more of our Soft Starts installed and working perfectly in the background immediately after you plug in the Soft Start up, without the installation work that's usually required. Just imagine being able to plug in your Soft Start up to your generator or your power pedestal or your solar power inverter and never have to worry about juggling the decision over which needs to run now, your AC unit or another appliance. No more worries about hot, sticky, sweaty summers in the RV or the biting cold during winter RV trips. You plug in your Soft Start up and focus while you started RVing in the first place, whether that's outdoor adventures, quality vacation time with your family, or just being more comfortable in your RV lifestyle every day. Right now, we're offering free shipping on all orders to any location in the continental USA and Canada. See the price listed below. I urge you to place your order ASAP, as we've got limited supplies in stock. Get your Soft Start up at the current advertised discount before the price goes up. Visit SoftStartUp.com now to place your order.
I hope our listeners enjoyed that conversation with Dennis as much as I did. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Zapp Savvy, where our mission is to
Power up your adventures and charge your life with knowledge.
And thanks again to our sponsor, SoftStart USA.
Please be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. I'm counting on you.
And be sure to comment what you like. Ask questions about what you want us to cover next. We love your feedback.
Thank you so much, and see you next time on
Zapp Savvy.